Well, welcome back, everyone, to Massive Late Fee. We've got another interview here. I know you guys have been really enjoying these interviews. Today, we have a pretty special guest and a unique challenge for me to interview an interviewer. We have with us Mike Wagner, who has been in the broadcast business for over 30 years. He is a mainstay in North Dakota on the radio. Over there doing a weekend program. You can hear him on iHeartRadio, SoundCloud. You can hear him over on 550 and 99.7 on KFYR Radio out of Bismarck, North Dakota. Mike Wagner, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Mark. Thanks for having me on board.
Oh, it's great. Mike interviewed me a little while ago. I will be appearing on his program, and we thought it was only fair to bring him over here. Mike, I'm interested. How exactly did you get started in the broadcast business?
Well, career-wise, I got started in 1982, graduating out of high school in northwest suburbs of Chicago called Hoffman Estates, and I was looking to get into originally journalism. So I was a sports writer for many years, did a little bit of music, news, and everything else. And I eventually got into computers because of the fact that where I went to school at Harper College didn't have a journalism program. It was just a 2-year school and designed to transfer over to a 4-year institution just to save some money. And however, while I was walking through, just to learn computers, get my general studies out of the way, and here I am, I bump into a radio booth and says, you can be a DJ. I thought, really? Okay, so I look over there, ask some questions. I was curious, and then something just bit me. I was just on the way walking over, and they talked, and something just bit me. And here I was, just fill out an application and said, great, just check up at the studio next week, and we'll get you started. And that's how the radio bug really bit me right there. It was like I felt something bite. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a spider. And it turned out that it was a radio bug that hit me. I eventually started. I did some DJ work. I became a news anchor, sports director, and I also hosted a few other shows. And then moved on in 1985 to Southern Illinois University, where I majored in radio television. And I finished up there, worked at WSIU, WIDB, and Southern Illinois Media Services, reading for the blind, and I also did some voiceover work, and then graduated in 87, came back up. I did some more radio work up there, and I also did some mobile DJing, and I did some voice work, other projects, and I worked at WRMN, WJKL, and then eventually I got married to my lovely wife, Serena, and we started having children, and I was mobile DJing at the time, worked at WKTA, and then eventually I decided to take some time off because I wanted to spend time with family. And then I eventually got back in the business where it's like I started doing some consulting for some radio stations, and I worked in audiovisual just to ran some conference centers for hotels and office facilities and everything else. And then I eventually was in the ministry for about 8 years before eventually getting on the verge of getting laid off. And then I was urged to get back into radio. I got back up in the Illinois-Wisconsin area at WRLR in Round Lake, close to the Milwaukee area. And then I also later did some voiceover work for Rainmakers Mark in Milwaukee. And then 2006, I did some freelance projects with voiceovers and everything. And then I was recruited by an Arizona consulting firm to head out to Bismarck, North Dakota in 2007. I eventually worked for KDKT as an intern general manager. Later became a consultant to train and coach other talent. Then I left after 3 years because there was a group from Oklahoma that came up and didn't need my services. And I eventually did some other projects. And then I landed at KFYR Radio in Bismarck, where I was just a board operator. Later became a sports producer, then had a couple of shows and took on some more roles. And then eventually I started the Mike Wagner Show, eventually in August 2018 with the urging of Steve Joyner. And this is while we're in South Dakota vacationing, and I want to do something different. I want to try interviews, and then we hooked up and talked a lot of things, and that's where the Mike Wagner Show was born. And now I've been just interviewing a lot of celebrities: Eddie Deason, Carl Gottlieb, and I had Richard Karn on the program, and there was also Once Upon a Time, and I've got just a huge list here. Billy Craig from Brownsville Station, Wesley Ure from Land of the Lost, and Frank Piombo, jazz guitarist from New York, won a number of awards. Lisa Wilcox, the actress from Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5, and Barry Pearl from Grease, and just a lot of people I've interviewed. I mean, I just had a great run, I'll tell you that. And of course, before, where it's like, I started playing radio as a kid, where folks gave me little radios and a weather radio, played around, listened to music, and did a little sports play-by-play just for fun. And I guess it just eventually just led up to where I was, and realized that this is the calling I'm enjoying to do. It's like, I'm really enjoying this right now.
Yeah, in a very short amount of time, you have been able to establish yourself as one of the better interviewers in the business. I'm interested a little bit in your process as far as research and question formation, things like that. What's your process as far as preparing for an interview?
Well, first of all, I'm given guests of whatever it is, like an actor, musician, comedian, writer, or it can be someone from another field, which could be related to what I do. And what I do is I basically just get to know them a little bit, take down their information, and then I look up online and look up every resource possible. And thank God for Google. This makes my job easy. And I just read about the person, what they like, what they've done, background, and just about every detail I could find. Then I just, form some questions in my head. It's like just simply, how'd you get started? And what have you done? And what do you like to do? And basically just get to know the person, their projects, what they've done, who they've worked with, what's up and coming, their biggest influences, and best advice and everything else. And how do people get a hold? It's almost like having a cup of coffee and just sitting down and having a regular conversation. Just say, hey, just tell me about what you're up to, what you're doing, and what do you like about this, what do you like about that. So my basic philosophy is getting to know the person and putting them in a positive spotlight where this person has done so much. He's done this, done that. Take a look at what they've done and what's up and coming and some side projects. And of course, if they happen to like sports, we talk sports. And if they happen to like, health or anything like that, movies or, whatever genre, music or, anything else to talk about, holistic. And I had some people talk about their pets and science and everything else. And we just go off on that. And then we just tie it in, just say, we just have a really interesting person just doing interesting things. And I call them just simply amazing people. And my process, it's not scripted at all. It's just simply organic, just like having a cup of coffee or having a beer. Just like you and I, like watching baseball, football, basketball, hockey at a sports bar in Detroit or somewhere. That's how it is.
Do you find that with the wealth of people that you talk to in different fields, as you said, you talk to actors, you talk to musicians, sometimes people in the business world or on the technical side of things, do you find that it's difficult to delve into each of these different areas, or have you always been the kind of person that sort of has a broad range of knowledge?
It's more like a broad range of knowledge for me because I just hate going to details at times where you get too detailed. Things get really boring because people don't really want to hear details. A broad range of knowledge to me is simply getting to know the person as a whole, a wide spectrum. Because if you start getting in details, you pigeonhole a person. And that's one of the pet peeves I have. Somebody tries to pigeonhole or stereotype. It's like I like seeing the person on a broad sense, what they've done, family, accomplishments, and interests, and everything else like that. So it's like, it's not to make them as a one-dimensional person, but multi-dimensional. And I just love hearing about what they do and what they're currently up to and just simply how excited they are to be on a show. And I like to make them feel comfortable and just have an enjoyable experience. And that's one of my goals too, is basically in this world where we're seeing all these negative talk shows and Howard Stern, foul-mouth, everything. I mean, a lot of us media people are just getting tired of it. This is almost like a change of pace that I offer. It's almost like the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson in a relaxed way without getting, too goofy or anything like that or hurling jokes, political jokes, and sexual innuendos. Is just having some laughs and just having a good time talking. That's what I like to accomplish. And if I've done that, where I make the guests laugh or feel so special, I say I've done my job.
As you said, you have sort of a technical background, but you're obviously, a big time people person. Do you feel like doing your interviews and doing your radio show on KFYR gives you sort of an outlet to connect more with people? Because a lot of those technical jobs sometimes can be a little isolating.
Well, for me, I don't call it really technical, being behind the board and everything like that. For me, it's like a challenge how I look at it. And I've got a home studio where I do some editing on my own computer. I've got my own mixing board. And for me, it's just like, it's just like I like to stick to the basics. I like to keep it simple and everything. KFYR is a completely different outlet for me where I simply play music on Sundays, and I also play some music. I tell everybody what's going on in the world, sports scores, weather, and travel and weather, because we're an information station and people need to know, okay, how much rain are we going to get? When's it going to rain? What's the wind speed? What's the barometer? And what's traffic like on the interstates or on a country road or a state road? It was like, is it going to be snow? Is it going to be rain? Is it going to be slick? I mean, and of course, weather. It's like, is it going to rain? Are we going to have a tornado, a blizzard, or how much wind are we going to get? It's like, they need to know all this information, and also make it entertaining as well, too, where it's like you keep the people informed, but also entertained as well, too. So for me, it's just like, I just like to combine everything together. And so it's like I just offer up a very unique experience to what I do as well in my profession as well, too. Just like with yours, it's like, you just like to keep things simple, keep things real, and offer a very nice perspective too. And of course, with your knowledge, it's just like, it is just amazing, I'll tell you. And I think I've done like a lot in just a short period of time. And I'm looking forward to more challenges as time goes on.
Absolutely. You certainly have accomplished a lot in a short period of time, especially in this field. I know that you're a big sports fan, and out there in North Dakota, we're a little blessed here in the Michigan area where we have a team in all four of the major sports. I'm always interested about people that live in areas where there are no natural sports teams. Who do you root for, and who would you say, is there a general consensus of teams that people root for in your area, or is it sort of a smattering depending on what part of the state you're in?
We kind of have like a mixed bag and kind of like a fragmented or segmented area, because up in North Dakota on the east side, when it comes to football, you got huge fans of the Minnesota Vikings because they're close to the Minnesota border. And then in a small part of North Dakota, around Wahpeton, around the southeast portion, they tend to root for the Kansas City Chiefs, because you go down I-29 and then you go over to I think it's I-90 or 94. I'm trying to remember which. You're heading into Kansas City. You just going past St. Louis, and you got some Kansas City fans over there. And you go on the west side, you've got Denver Bronco fans, because it's closer to Montana, closer to Wyoming, and if you just sneak through, you can also sneak into through Nebraska, into Colorado and Utah. In that area, you got a smattering of Bronco fans. But then if you go up in the northwest portion, like around Williston or close to Canadian border in Montana, you got fans of the Seattle Seahawks. And, of course, you got some rabid fans out there. And, of course, you got a smattering of Chicago Bears. Well, considering I grew up in the Milwaukee, Chicago area, I did root for the Brewers at one point until my dad brought home a Fergie Jenkins hat, because he went with a group of guys from his work at a Cubs game, and I switched over to the Chicago Cubs because the Cubs were playing better than the Brewers at the time, and still a Cub fan to this day. And also for hockey, the Chicago Blackhawks, it's natural. You got the Milwaukee Admirals, but you don't hear much of them. The Blackhawks, I attended my first game in 1974, and it was just a mixed bag of everything that was great. I mean, you had a good amount of scoring. You had a lot of checking. You had fights. You had a bench brawl, and you had a game-winning goal like in the final minute. And that's what turned me on to hockey. And I was enjoying the Blackhawks for them. And, of course, I was one point a Milwaukee Bucks fan attended a couple of Bucks games for moving to Chicago, and then as soon as Michael Jordan got on board, and the Bucks were just playing terrible. It's like new owner, and their coach, who is it, Don Nelson, got fired, and Marcus Johnson got traded. I switch over the Bulls and look at them. They won like a couple of three-peats, which is probably the rarest feat in like any sport or any championship or any accomplishment. It's like winning 2 three-peats, and the way sports goes these days with one and dones, quick wins and everything, that'll never be accomplished. And of course, I've been a Cub fan for quite a while, and I'm trying to think, what else have I hit? Been a Packer fan since I was born in Milwaukee, and really enjoyed the Packers. Bear fan at one point because the Packers were terrible, and then the Bears went downhill, and they Packers signed Brett Favre, and then Reggie White, and then just being back on again. But I still keep to my roots as well too. But I do report on the Minnesota Vikings on KFYR, out of obligation, just to serve the public and the interest. And then you have in North Dakota, you have University of North Dakota Fighting Hawks football, which is up in Grand Forks in the Northeast. And then you got a split with the NDSU Bison or North Dakota State out of Fargo, and maybe college football fans know instead of Division One, or like in Division One, what was it, 1A or Double A or something, that they've won what their 6th or 7th title. So you've got a smattering of UND fans and NDSU fans. And of course, you got the smaller colleges. And of course, you've got in hockey, you got the Bismarck Bobcats, and you got the Fargo Force, and you got the Minot Minotauros, and of course, you've got with colleges like the University of Mary, Minot State, and Dickinson State. You just have these groups that are just holding for their local teams, and they just have a passion for what they do locally. But then when it comes to other sports, with hockey, you've got some Minnesota Wild fans, but they're not that big on it. And in basketball, of course, you got the same mix of teams. Some will follow the Minnesota Timberwolves, some will follow the Denver Nuggets. And then baseball, you've got the Minnesota Twins all the way, because many of them have grown up listening to baseball on the Twins network, which covers a lot of North Dakota. Mm-hmm. So you got a mixed bag of just about everything, and mainly football. It's like you've got people that are rooting for different teams, but it's split on one side. Minnesota Vikings on the east, Denver Broncos on the west. But you do have an interesting sports scene, in terms of national and regional and local. So you have an interesting mix.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. Speaking of the Cubs, what was it like for you? Do you remember exactly kind of how it felt when the Cubs finally broke through and won the World Series a few years ago?
I have to say I was elated because I took the family over the Buffalo Wild Wings in Bismarck to watch the game, and we had a nice dinner, and I never stayed up very late to watch the game, and we got to like 12:45, and I have my my iPad just ready to capture that moment, and then I had it ready, and as soon as the guy from the Cleveland Indians hit a ground ball, and I'm trying to remember, it was like, don't bobble it, and then throughout the first, don't drop it, and what if the guy is called safe? It's like so much is going through my head. I have it captured, I put it on Instagram and everything, and then as soon as it was over, the Cubs were jumping, I said, Cubs won, and Cubs won, and I was just ready to cry in elation. And there were some Cub fans there, but you had a good portion who are Cleveland Indians fans, and believe it or not, it was a group of pastors from Cleveland attending a conference in Bismarck, and they all got up and cheered and said it was a great game, great series, and they came to me and says, hey, congratulations on your Cubs, and I said, thank you, and God bless you, and I'll be praying your Cleveland Indians win next year.
Right.
I mean, it's just a friendly rivalry. It wasn't an angry rivalry. It was just all good and fun, and people just wanted to watch baseball just for the sake of baseball. Now, if it was the Twins, it'd be a different story. They already won 2 World Series in the 80s, and I think they were in one in the 80s, like during the Kirby Puckett days, and also Kent Herbeck and many others as well too. And I mean, just have a smattering of it as well too. And I'm getting ready for Cubs baseball as well too. And Ian Happ, although he did get sent down to the minors, and it looks like Yu Darvish is healing right now. Looks like they've improved their pitching, and they've gotten some relievers as well too. So I think they're going to improve from last year, especially when they lost 3 key games in a row in extra innings to fall out of the playoff picture. But of course, kudos to the Milwaukee Brewers. They're much more hungry as well too, and same thing for the Colorado Rockies. But I am looking forward to another good Cubs year, and I think this is the year that Madden is probably going to win the whole thing, and if he doesn't, he might walk away on his own terms. But this year is going to be very interesting. I'll tell you right now.
For sure, I think this whole baseball season is going to be quite interesting. I think we're going to have some surprises. I think some of the mainstays will be there. I think the Cubs will be there, but I definitely think there's going to be some surprise teams that make life a little miserable for some of the more established clubs. So getting onto your interviews, you listed a few of them before. Billy Craig stands out to me. Kathy Coleman, Lisa Wilcox, Eddie Deason. Is there a one that was particularly difficult for you to prepare for, or difficult for you to just do, whether you were maybe a little starstruck or it was a little difficult to figure out kind of how to attack it, so to speak?
I do all my research as best. I have no problems with it, but then when you have the ones that are up and coming and they have very little IMBD or maybe very few pages, you try to come up with something and really dig out that information. I mean, I wasn't really that starstruck, as time went on. But then, considering having done interviews in a long time, that I did some here and there, but after a while, I started turning them down because it didn't fit or whatever else. And then my first interview on the Mike Wagner show with Sandy Hellberg, when I did on KFYR as a test run, preparing for it's like I got the questions down, but then getting them on the air. And I have to say this, it's like when it got to like maybe 5 minutes before going on, I have to admit I was very, very, very nervous. What I've said the same thing. What I've said the wrong question. It's been done before. But then after a few questions and some laughs and good answers and chuckles and everything, it started becoming like riding a bike again and basically just talking to a regular person. And the celebrities I had on there, they're basically just regular people just doing their job. They get up and, wash their face, brush their teeth, have their breakfast, go off and do their job. And then when they're done with their what they do, putting on uniform, costume, put on their superstar mode and everything, they get off work. They're regular people. They come back home and, they spend time with the family, go out with friends, or they hug their pets, or they just come home with their easy chair, have a little something to eat and drink, relax, and everybody goes back to bed, and then you get up the next day and do the same thing all over again. So no matter what the personality is, you bottom line to get down to it, they're just regular people doing a regular job, and some have a much higher talent level than others. They're being called upon a higher task. It's how you handle it. That's one of the biggest challenges, and I think I've handled it pretty good, considering all the talent that I've got.
Absolutely. If anyone out there is curious, and you should be at this point, Mike does some absolutely top-notch interviews. You have to go and listen to them. Like I said, if you're in the Bismarck, North Dakota area, KFYR, you can hear him give his updates, play some music. Sundays 2 to 6, I think it is, right?
Correct, yes. And Sunday morning, 6 to 10 a.m. Central Time, that's where I entertain the farmers or whoever's up, out and about, because we do have like workers, like the coal miners and the farmers and the ranchers and plant workers, the fire rescue, public service. I mean, basically you have a lot of people that are up and about in the mornings, overnights and everything, and they do need that information. So it's very vital that they get it. So it's KFOR.com. If you're not in the Bismarck, Mandan area, you can listen live on iHeartRadio as well, too. So you can access anywhere, and I encourage everybody to give it a listen and also make a request.
And look for the Mike Wagner Show on iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spreaker, basically any place that you can find podcasts. Just look them up on the old Google there. Mike, it has been a pleasure to talk to you. can you give us a little where we can find you online, where we can connect with you, Facebook, your website, Twitter, anything like that?
Absolutely. I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can also hook me up on Facebook with Mike Wagner. You see me with a microphone. I'm under Bismarck, North Dakota. You can also catch me on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and also on Instagram at Mike Wagner Voiceover, The Mike Wagner Show, Mike Wagner Show, and, of course, the MikeWagnerShow.com. I'm also a voiceover talent doing audiobooks, commercials, and many projects, radio imaging and everything. I'm at MikeWagnerVoiceover.com. You can also hit me up on the email, MikeWagnerVoiceover@gmail.com, or the Mike Wagner Show at TheMikeWagnerShow.com. You can access me, and if you got any questions, or if you want to be a guest or be a sponsor of the donor program, just let me know. I'll be happy to help you. And one important thing, I don't bite.
Everybody, I urge you to go check out Mike Wagner's show. Absolutely fascinating interviews, some of the best interviews that are being done today. Mike Wagner, thank you for joining us so much, and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you very much again, Mark. You're a great interviewer. You'll be doing a great job. I love all your stuff, and let's talk baseball sometime. And at your end, go Tigers.
Absolutely. Thank you. And go Cubs. Tigers, Cubs in the
That's
World
right.
Series. I want to see
World Series, baby.